Thank you very much. I suggest we move on with Florence, and then I take the question after. I'm running a little out of time. So there were a lot of very good things about big data and how it applies to the justice. I would like to hear something a little different. I was talking about the black swan theory, and there were also some very good questions coming from the audience, challenging the model and the way we are looking the future with analytics and law. And Florence, maybe you could reinforce the idea that the things are not as clear and as easy as they were developed for the moment.
Okay, thank you, Laure. The first thing I have to say is that Harold Epineuze, who were supposed to be here this morning, couldn't make it due to health problems, and we wish him a very prompt recovery. So I won't make any presentation. Time flies, so I will just make a few remarks on the question of predictive analytics and the law. And the first thing, but we already know it, the first thing I want to highlight is the fact that predictive analytics are used to answer the question, what will happen? And we've discussed so far what will the judge do or what will the court decide. But there are other aspects. What are human beings are going to do? And that's why I would like to say a few words about a very recent report, a very recent American report from the National Bureau of Economic Research that is called Human Decisions and Machine Predictions. You probably have heard of it. What's the question? The question is that defendants in the US, defendants, and in France too actually, defendants frequently stay in jail awaiting trial when judges decide that they are a flight risk or a threat, or when they just can't afford bail. And in this research from the National Bureau of Economic Research, economists and computer scientists trained an algorithm to predict whether defendants were a flight risk. And in order to assess the risk, they based their assessment on the defendants' court records. They used data from hundreds of thousands of cases in New York City. And they concluded that the algorithm proved better at predicting what defendants will do after release. So their estimate is that for New York City, their algorithm can cut crime by defendants awaiting trial by as much as 25% without changing the numbers of people waiting in jail. And actually, this is a study, but the use of predictive analytics by American courts is currently reality. And I could give a few examples, like the state of New Jersey that replaced bail hearings with algorithms, with algorithmically informed risk assessment. So it's a very recent reform because it was a reform adopted in 2016, but they adopted what they call the public safety assessment formula. New Jersey is not the only one because you have many jurisdictions that employ those algorithms extensively. And this is, in a certain way, a kind of algorithmic justice because you will use the formula in order to decide if the defendant should be released or not. So here, it's an example of the use of predictive analytics in order to help judges make a decision. And indeed, it is, even though it's just prescriptive, indeed, it is very close to prescriptions in those kind of decisions, because those decisions are supposed to be based on the flight risk, and the algorithm assesses the flight risk. So here, it's a certain kind of prediction that focuses on a certain human behavior, that will the defendant commit another crime. What we've discussed previously is a prediction about a court decision, which is completely different to me. And that's the first remark that I would like to make. It is different to make a prediction about those kind of criminal behaviors and to make a prediction about a decision from an authority that is supposed to apply the legal rule, a rule. And here, I think there should be, and we will probably discuss it later this afternoon, but I think we should keep this in mind, that there are two kinds of behaviors. Well, on the first hand, we have, on the one hand, we have a behavior, on the other hand, we have a judicial decision. And those two things are very different. And I think we should keep this in mind when we deal with predictive analytics. And my other remark on the subject is, providing that, my second remark would be about discrimination. Just one remark about this. Because, of course, and it has been said already, there is a problem with discrimination because machine learning can verify existing patterns of discrimination. Machine learning depends upon data that has been collected from society. And to the extent that society contains inequality, exclusion, discrimination, then the data will also contain it. And this can be problematic. And there were 2 reports that were published last year by the White House, the White House, that highlighted those questions, especially in criminal justice. There was a ProPublica report in 2016 that highlighted the problem raised by the use of algorithms in the criminal justice system. So this is my second remark. This can be problematic regarding discrimination concerns. And my last remark is the question of the concept of predictive justice. What is predictive justice? And I know that that's the question Harold wanted to ask. Is the notion of predictive justice consistent? And I think it can be discussed. Yes, it's true. We will have figures, we will have assessments about what court's decision may be. And of course, it will be a huge help, a huge source of information for lawyers. But this will be only an assessment. And I don't think we can go so easily from predictive justice to prescriptive justice. Those tools are just a help for lawyers, a help for judges, but I think we should not emphasize too much the pressure that it represents for lawyers, because, and especially here in France, lawyers are accustomed to work with general rules, to work with civil codes provisions. And we have this very sophisticated legal reasoning that we use for what reason? Well, because we want all decisions or opinions to be legitimate. And that's, I think that's the reason for which those tools will be helpful and are helpful, but they will not replace lawyers and judges.